Salutations, sumo wrestling sensations, automatic here for automatic games. Thanks for joining me for Season 4, Episode 8 of our XCOM 2 series. Now, never mind you about our previous installment. In this installment, we're going to finally disclose the details of that classified operation undertaken by Echo Squad. And what better way to do that than to eavesdrop on a conversation between one of our doctors and Colonel Susbury.
Excuse me, Colonel Susbury?
Can I help you?
Yes. Well, I think so. I'm Dr. Knight. I work in the AWC.
I know who you are.
Right, sorry. Anyways, we have a patient in there now, and she's a bit of a mystery to me. I was hoping that you would be able to help me out with that.
Does this look like a nurse's uniform, Doctor?
No.
I could contact our squad medic if you want me to.
Oh, it's not like that at all. The patient is Jane Kelly, and she's unresponsive on account of administered sedatives. Now, she has a multitude of injuries.
My apologies, but I cannot be having this conversation with you.
Ma'am?
I'm really busy right now, and how do I even know you've got clearance?
Oh, I know about your mission. I've got clearance, level 4.
Well, can't you read the after report then?
Well, that's the problem. Usually we get an AAR with the patient, but with her, that wasn't the case.
Well, did you see the commander?
Yes, and he gave me this clearance card and told me the squad leader was working on it.
Well, then Colonel Mortimer is your man, isn't he?
I went to him, and he said it would be a few days. He was rather short with me, to be honest.
Yeah, he's a grumpy shit. He doesn't particularly like writing reports.
Well, that's fine, but you know, he's got to write those reports.
So he told you to ask me?
Yes, now he also said I could ask Sergeant Michaels?
Lieutenant Michaels.
Lieutenant Michaels, sorry.
Just ask your questions, Doctor.
Sure, thank you. Did Miss Kelly incur any wounds during extraction or the mission?
You have a real problem with rank, don't you, Doctor?
I wasn't military before all this, so...
I understand, hun, but you're gonna have to learn.
Right, well, she was a major?
Is?
She is a major? Okay, well, now, do you know how the major sustained her injuries?
She was in bad shape when we first made contact.
But some of these injuries appear to be recently...
When we found her, she was complaining of chest pains, and her left arm was broken in 2 places. She jumped from a moving vehicle.
Well, that would explain the fractured ribs. How long before your arrival did she jump from this vehicle?
She couldn't be certain. Some time.
So she did speak with you?
Yes.
Did she account for her condition? I mean, did she tell you what they did to her?
Kinda. She told us that an Advent convoy was moving she and some others out of Ghana. She only knew that they were travelling east, and rebels hit the convoy in Nigeria. She managed to jump out of the truck during the attack. She then fled and went to the nearest city, wound up in downtown Lagos. There, she was identified by a resistance sympathizer who contacted the Liberian resistance movement, and they got in contact with us.
So she took those injuries, the arm and the ribs, a week before you found her?
I don't know how long it takes to walk from Magboro to Lagos. Do you?
Well, I could look it up.
Go for it, hon.
Hun, but why do you keep calling me that?
It's a habit. I call everyone it. Mostly because I'm bad with names.
So, what was that first city again?
Magboro.
Okay. You brought her in on December 29th?
That's correct. They briefed us on Christmas Eve, I think. That's the first I heard of it, anyway. It took a few days to confirm the intelligence.
What about her left eye?
During an interrogation, Stun Lancer. She believed that was in Ghana, overheard people talking about an attack on a nearby Advent base. The Forge, they called it. After that strike, she said they were started moving prisoners east.
How did the Stun Lancer inflict that wound?
She didn't say.
I see.
Delta Squad was commanded as always by David Mortimer, codenamed MrMortull, taking in the Skulljack and the Frostbomb. He was joined in the field by Katherine Susbury wearing the war suit with a built-in flamethrower incendiary rounds and an acid bomb. Bridget Michaels, codenamed Skeptic, taking in blue screen rounds and an EMP bomb. Autumn Durga, codenamed Stealer, taking in a nanoscale vest and the Mimic Beacon. Thomas Trumpet, codenamed Titanium, taking in nano medkits and another EMP bomb. And finally, Finnegan Trollester, codenamed Finntroll, taking in the ray suit with a battle scanner. And that was the composition of Echo Squad on the date in question. Before you knew it, Echo Squad was aboard the Sky Ranger and away.
Sky Ranger. We're in the pipe. 5x5.
Copy. Firebrand, begin your descent.
Recon picked up a weak distress signal coming from this area. The Resistance confirmed it's one of their codes, so we're moving in to provide an emergency extraction. We'll need to secure the area and escort the VIP to the evac point. Stay alert for hostile contacts.
Nobody had seen nor heard from Jane Kelly since that fatal mission that Delta Squad engaged in Kansas City. One thing we did know, according to an operative in Lagos, is that Jane Kelly was in bad shape. Nonetheless, Echo Squad was anxious to get to her, and they were ready to deploy. Soon enough, Echo Squad was boots down atop an office building that allegedly housed Jane Kelly. Mortull wasted no time in dropping down, essentially setting up next to a POE, a street-side entrance. He was going to make up part of the breach team, and he ordered Skeptic to assist him in that. To that end, both of them activated run and gun. So yeah, they would be breaching, and their entry would be covered by the remainder of Echo Squad up there on that second-story rooftop. Or rather, first-story rooftop, I'm sorry. Titanium dropping down near this doorway. If the initial breach went wrong, he'd be able to make entry there, but he has eyes on 3 X-rays, an Archon, and 2 Vipers, all 3 of which are closing in. Titanium took aim at one of the Vipers, opened fire, and put her down.
Hostile target down.
That left 2 on the grid. Finntroll dropping down onto the balcony dash first-story rooftop. He was going to draw his sidearm and take a shot at the nearby remaining Viper. And he scored a hit. Good deal. But the Viper was still slithering, so Sushikat dropped down next to Finntroll.
Moving out.
And she too would open up on that Viper. Pouring it on, she does good damage, and the Viper's down. That left just an Archon on the grid. As to Stealer, the Psi operative also set up next to Finntroll, but then she waited. Skeptic moved inside the office building and soon recognized her old squad leader. She also saw the Archon and took a shot. But it was no joy. Okay, so Mortull entered as well, and he too would take a shot at the Archon, given line of sight, which he had. Actually, he decided to go with rapid fire. That would grant him 2 shots, the first of which does excellent damage. The second one fails to connect. Either way, just an Archon on the grid, and that Archon is at half strength. Stealer still had room to do something, so she used Inspire on Titanium. And, he doesn't really have a line of sight, or didn't rather. But what he could do is drop down near the Archon, thus giving the Archon an alternate target besides Jane Kelly. After all, we would rather have that thing attack us than attack our VIP. And so how was the Archon going to react to that? Well, let's see. It moved inside, and sure enough, it targeted titanium, so that was altogether fortunate that he made that decision, more so in that the Archon missed. So good deal there. Finntroll went into Overwatch.
On Overwatch.
And now it was a matter of dealing with that Archon. Somebody was going to go in close, and it was going to be MrMortull. So yeah, he ran up to the Archon, swung, and did excellent damage. The Archon was just hanging on by a hair. But add to that the fact that the Archon was on fire, it certainly was not long for this world. And that freed up Skeptic to go ahead and move outside via jumping through a window. A window right next to a door. And she also clearly had eyes on an advanced mech and a trooper. The trooper dropping down to street level, activating Overwatch from Finntroll, who fired and missed. Well, now, of course, we had 3 on the grid, but one of which was that burning Archon, soon to be dead. Skeptic went ahead and fired at the mech. And seeing as she was using blue screen rounds, the mech took severe damage. Titanium determined to move outside, and he too was going to take a shot. Either at, at the trooper. Failed to connect. No worries there, though. Sushikat had yet to move, so she dropped down. And given an appropriate line of sight, she was going to take a shot at that advanced mech as well. And she sure enough had a line of sight. She opened fire, and the mech was no more.
Target neutralized.
So the only genuine threat remaining on the grid was that trooper. And our Psi operative dropped down to street level in an effort to go ahead and line up a shot on that trooper. Which she was able to do. She took the shot and took the trooper's life. Good deal. That leaves the grid virtually clear, considering that Archon is about to die. And so our VIP moves outside. It does look like she's carrying an invisible rifle. I guess we'll chalk that up to her broken arm or her injuries. And there goes the Archon. As predicted, it succumbed to Mortall's wounds. Just when we thought the grid was clear, a Guardian emerged, a trooper, and, I don't know if that was a shield bearer or a stun lancer. And you know, come to think of it, I guess that isn't a shield bearer. Shield bearer would have had the 2 yellow shields next to its health. This one doesn't, so it must be a stun lancer. I know it's not a trooper. Anyhow, Skeptic moved up with the intention of deploying an EMP bomb on the Guardian. That's going to cause guaranteed damage. And, of course, it does. And this is followed up by Finntroll taking a shot at the trooper in the middle of the street there. One shot, trooper down. That, of course, left two on the grid, the Guardian and the Stun Lancer, or should I say presumed Stun Lancer. And correction, there were three on the grid because an Advent turret joined the fray. Well, Titanium had an EMP bomb as well, so he advanced with the intention of deploying it on that Guardian, but if possible, he'd like to catch that turret in the same blast radius. And he could, so he did. And that, folks, is a twofer. Leaving one on the grid, and that is the Stun Lancer. To which Kat decided to advance and lay some fire down on that Lancer. She cut the Lancer down.
Hostile neutralized. I need ammo.
Now, of course, we've discussed that Jane Kelly was in bad shape when Echo Squad found her back in that office building. And XCOM was already aware of that fact, thanks to an embedded operative in Lagos that identified Jane Kelly. Now, during the mission, Kelly didn't have any opportunity to talk to the members of Echo Squad, so she didn't relay her story then, quite obviously. She waited until they were aboard the Skyranger, and she talked most directly to Bridget Michaels and Katherine Susbury. And much of the story that Susbury heard, she relayed to Dr. Knight, and of course you heard that. But she did leave out or brush over some details. For instance, when Delta Squad was decimated in Kansas City, Jane Kelly was captured, she was heavily wounded then, and she was transferred back to Vancouver. The control zone that contains Vancouver is governed by military governor Raul Romero. And Romero had Jane Kelly tortured for information. He then determined that Vancouver was too unsafe. After all, XCOM had operated in Vancouver on numerous occasions. So, he had Jane Kelly transferred to, well, what he thought would be a safe location in West Africa. Of course, then XCOM hits the Forge, also in West Africa, and Advent feels compelled to move prisoners again. So they start moving Jane Kelly east, I would guess towards Egypt. But the convoy was hit by resistance fighters, and Jane Kelly made her escape.
Menace 1-5, be advised, hostile interceptors are inbound on your current position. Firebrand has a limited window to provide extraction.
But all this obviously left her in a bad way.
Heading out.
As you can see, Skeptic is taking point.
Calling us.
She's going to move up by this half wall,
On your order.
and she has eyes on an Advent advanced mech. And that's not all. We've got three on the grid, one officer, one shield bearer, and the aforementioned mech. The officer and shield bearer head to the first floor, taking up positions near windows, and the mech holds its ground. Skeptic opens fire on the advanced mech and does excellent damage, in no small part due to those blue screen rounds she's firing. Finntroll utilized his grappling hook, took to an elevated position, with the hopes of also aiming at that mech. And yeah, he had a clear line of sight, he took advantage of it. The mech was down. That left two on the grid, the Advent officer and the shield bearer. Sushikat maneuvered by the blown-out police car,
Designated position.
and she went for her EMP bomb, intending to deploy it against the officer and shield bearer, but she found she didn't have quite the range to do that, so she continued her advance, ultimately ending up next to
Heading
Skeptic.
to that location.
Titanium moved up by the burnt-out patrol car, and he went into Overwatch
I'm on it.
as the Stealer. She decided to inspire Kat, thus ultimately allowing Kat to deploy that acid bomb after all. I might have called it an EMP bomb earlier, I'm not sure if I did. Nonetheless, we got our story straight now. It's an acid bomb, and yeah, she did have the range. And both assets are wounded, and they really shouldn't hold their position. In the meantime, Jane Kelly, she moved up all the while, steering clear of Advent's forces.
Set him up, knock him down.
Now, we did lose a few seconds there. Essentially, all you missed was Mortal moving and Advent taking its turn, in which the Advent officer marked Kat. Kat immediately sought revenge by moving up on and opening fire upon the officer, cutting the officer down. As to the shield bearer, it maneuvered and buffed both itself and the officer. Now, Skeptic decided she would close in upon and give this shield bearer what for. So right now you're seeing the what, and there's the for. The shield bearer is wounded. Previously suffering the effects of that acid, he's now also on fire. Titanium moves up, seeking to put the shield bearer out of its misery. He fired, and he missed.
Come on. Got no ammo.
Well, somebody had to get in there and take down that shield bearer, so Steeler advanced. And despite being a psyop, she opened fire and scored a perfect hit. The shield bearer was down, the grid was clear. And so now, Advent reinforcements notwithstanding, the approach was wide open. And so yeah, to be honest, rather than showcase these troops moving toward that extraction, I think we'll just go ahead and skip ahead. Why the hell not? So here we go. The target VIP is in position for extraction, and she's away.
This is Firebrand. VIP is secure.
Finntroll is next up.
I'm on it.
He suffered no damage whatsoever, no injuries. And he is also away. Now that I think about it, I don't think anybody was injured in this op.
Moving to designated coordinates.
So yeah, that's excellent.
I'm gone.
Kat heads up to the Sky Ranger. Go with furthest away. Steeler is next up.
No need to ask twice.
And she's panning out to be quite the psyop, although in this particular mission, she took down a trooper using her rifle. She also took down that shield bearer near the end. So not bad. Titanium was next up.
Location confirmed.
And he truly is getting adjusted to Echo Squad.
Heading home.
He likes these folks, what can I say? I mean, after all, Echo Squad is panning out to be as exemplary a squad as the others, which is which is high praise because those other two squads are something else. Skeptic was away, and last out of the AO is the squad leader, David Mortimer, codenamed Mortull. Echo Squad was away.
Status confirmed. Mission accomplished.
And yeah, it was a flawless victory, and Echo took care of every enemy in this AO, as they are known to do. So yeah, they take no prisoners, they leave no enemy behind. I guess they leave corpses behind in their wake, so to speak. Anyhow, that, folks, is a look at the operation which set Jane Kelly free. But as you know, currently she's under. She's not conscious. And it isn't likely that she will continue in a combat role for us, considering the injuries that she has taken. That will probably rest on both the findings of the doctors, like Dr. Knight, and the commander, of course, and perhaps Van Dorn will get his foot in the door and be able to add his 2 cents.
The aliens are probably still wondering what hit them. Let's keep it up, Commander.
But in terms of Echo Squad, amazing work. I mean, it's like they've been with us all along. And we're altogether grateful to have Jane Kelly back with us. No matter what condition she's in, no matter what she's seen, she's home. And that's a big moment for us. It answers some questions. Well, anyways, let's answer a few more questions by eavesdropping once again.
There are further signs of torture.
She's an intelligence operative. Advent knew that. She didn't walk us through the details, but one can assume that she saw the worst of it.
Oh, and she most certainly did. Did she mention anything else?
She had a lot to say, Doctor. Can you be more specific?
Well, did she mention a child?
What kind of child?
A pregnancy.
Hers?
I really shouldn't comment.
What do you mean, Doctor? Was she pregnant before, or are you saying...
I think I've already said too much.
I've disclosed classified information to you.
I put in clearance to talk to you. And besides, this is personal information. You know that.
So even Advent tries to get their kicks.
I didn't say that. If that means what I think it means, I did not say that.
Well, that's why I asked, to better understand my fucking enemy.
I can only state that Advent put her through hell.
Well, you need to cut back on the sedatives so she can make a proper statement.
Oh, so now you are a nurse.
Are you trying to be funny? Because I'm not laughing, Doctor. If there is a child out there, I've half a mind to request another mission on her behalf.
I've really said all I can say, and you've answered my questions. We should leave it there.
That's fine. But if she comes to, you tell her that we'll act if she wants us to. If Advent has some children prisoner, we'll move on it. You tell her that.
I promise. I'll make it clear. Thank you for your help, really.
One more thing before you go.
Colonel?
You take care of her. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
I've read her file. I know what she's done for this organization. The Resistance needs her. And that's on you.
And so now you know a little bit more about what Jane Kelly had to endure and what it took to bring her home. Now, she of course is laid up. And as the good doctor alluded to, her condition is poor. So chances are we'll be dropping her off with the Vigilant Resistance movement. Her time with the XCOM organization has come to an end. Anyways, this is Automatic for Automatic Games. If you like this, and if you are subscribed, I will talk to you soon, friends.